Hi, everybody, and welcome to a special QPW Galactic Report on the Three Eye Atlas and the Golden Convergence of Timelines. This is a special edition that we're putting out here on our YouTube channel based on some extensive research that Bella here has been deep diving into for, well, really for a couple of weeks now. And she has uncovered some interesting information that you feel is very pertinent and important as we enter into what looks to be quite an interesting passage here in the ongoing ascension process and the evolution of humankind and of Mother Earth. So, Bella, where would you like to start?
I hope that you guys get as excited as I am about all of this information. We're going to talk about the effects of Three Eye Atlas, the prophecy of Pacal Votan, the convergence of timelines, and sacred geometry, all part of the same. The golden ratio is at the heart of it all. So we're all going to talk about that.
Right, so the Three Eye Atlas has been capturing many people's attention really since it entered into our awareness back sometime in July, depending on who you listen to. But over the last week to 10 days, it's gathered further momentum. More information is coming out about it. A lot of the information is a little bit conflictory. And well, perhaps Bella's going to give us some further indications on how we can view what is really actually quite an important thing, regardless of what happens, to have this third object come into our part of the universe at high speed with seemingly different maneuvers to what we would expect, all of which indicates that this is something new and different to anything that we have any memories of from before. But that doesn't mean it hasn't happened previously, as I think we will find out at some point during this presentation. But without getting ahead of ourselves, we're going to share this information in the form of our usual presentation, which Bella will be guiding us through, and occasionally I might add some tidbits to if it seems appropriate. But should we get into it, Bella?
Yes, just a reminder that we are in the yellow castle, and it's within this yellow castle, within this cycle of 52 days, that we are going to have a convergence of timelines, and it's a huge convergence.
Yeah, and in fact, with all of this, we also have two eclipses coming up and a variety of other layerings of energy. So this is a very energetically ripe and potent time. And this is our way of assisting everybody in making sense of the layers so that your intentions are clear, that your pathway is open, and that perhaps some of the confusion has been put into a place of less confusion. So without further ado, we will get into the presentation and Bella will share with us all what this is all about. All right.
Right, so it is about the convergence of timelines, and we can see here the Hunapku symbol, which is the connection to the center of the galaxy. We can see here the flower of life, the geometry around it. It's all very important. It's all very relevant to what we're going to talk about. So what we are seeing, what I've been researching deeply now, is that there is a portal to cosmic prophecy, harmony, and healing just ahead of us, a few weeks away. And there is this golden intersection of timelines, which is occurring in October of 2025. I'll go more in detail about the dates, specific dates in a little while. But this represents an unprecedented convergence of cosmic, mathematical, and calendrical cycles. This event is marking a transformative moment for humanity. This is what there is an urgency to share this message, because it's offering us a unique opportunity to harmonize with the natural rhythms of time and space. And this transformative moment in human planetary evolution, I don't think we've seen it in thousands of years. So that's why it's a big moment. So let's start with what happened with the Julian and Gregorian calendars. We know that the Gregorian replaced the Julian calendar, but we know that there is a distortion in this calendar. And when we put our focus on time, it affects our mind and the reality that we create. And you can see here on the right how in 1582 with the Gregorian calendar, they just jumped from day 4 to day 15. They removed 11 days from the calendar. So there is a distortion there, plus getting us into irregular months, artificially made months that do not coincide with the natural cycles of nature. So because of this, we know that it is the root to the enduring crisis that we've been experiencing on Earth, where a whole society was created to be in debt, to pay taxes, to make sure that we thought that time was money rather than time is creativity, art, love, and everything else that we should be doing instead of this. So why is this important? Because the October we're coming to a crunch point, to a convergence point, even with this system where we can dissolve it and make sure we realign ourselves with natural time. So if we count from now, we remove 443 years is the amount of time since this has been in place. And when we go into 443 years, keep that number in your minds, because we're going to see why it's important and how it is connected to the golden ratio. This is the number of years where we get that portal, that opportunity to realign ourselves and to dissolve this system. Anything you want to add there?
Well, I mean, we did a bit of a deep dive on this in the Mind, Time and Magic course on the QPW platform. And when you really start to look at this particular piece here in any detail, it brings up a lot of questions about how much we can believe time as it's been presented to us from the past, and how coherent or even just how stable it is. And it's also worth bearing in mind when we did that deep dive, the original Julian calendar was set up for taxation purposes. So that is a very key and fundamental point to all of this. And because once you understand that, you can understand that it's been used as a mechanism really to control us.
Right. So let's talk now about the harmonic convergence, which happened in 1987. And this was thanks to Jose Arguelles and Lloydine, his partner, where they launched this huge campaign to get 144,000 people to meditate and to bring a new era for humanity. And so this convergence already happened in August, a few weeks back, a few days ago. And so we are also marking here 38 years since that point, since they launched that initiative. And there were many things that happened with this harmonic convergence, which I'll go into to do with the cosmos. So we'll talk about those markers later on, but I do want to give like big recognition to the work that Jose and Lloydine did.
And also the work of Stephanie South, also who followed on the work and continued.
Everybody that has been making the calendars, like Eden Sky. There are many people, lots of people in Latin America that create beautiful calendars, make beautiful videos, and have been continuously doing this work, because Jose Arguelles went all around the world trying to spread the word, and many people have been living in that way for over 20 years. So it's a very important job they do.
In fact, one of the joys of following this calendar over the last few years with the QPW community has been meeting other people who've joined our community but have been working with the energies of the 13 calendar on and off, maybe, or even continuously, maybe even worked with Lloydine and Jose. And it's really beautiful to see that there are actually more people out there than we had actually realized initially a few years ago who are already plugged into the frequency of this high Mayan technology.
So what they managed to accomplish in 1987 was that network, a unified moment of collective synchronization. They started that at that moment. And it was announcing how we needed to prepare to move from a three-dimensional reality of space into a four-dimensional reality of time. So that was the beginning of this journey for all of us. It was a preparation to 2012, which was the end of the big long count cycle. So it is actually time rather than gravity that keeps everything in the universe in order, according to the words of Jose Arguelles. And time is the mathematics of the universal laws of nature, the unifying force that holds everything together. I like to say that love is also part of that, but I think, as you'll see when we go into the golden ratio, that love and mathematics and all of that is almost part of the same thing. So it feels like we are entering a time wave of redemption. And we've been talking about the process of evolution through redemption, through compassion, through integration. And this harmonic convergence of 1987 was a prophetic counterspin to the atomic events that happened in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So when we go back to 1945, it was in August of 1945 that this happened, these horrible events happened. And what happened with the harmonic convergence is that they organized to put and plant those seeds of a new planetary consciousness at that time so that it could mathematically correct and rebalance the karmic effect of those things that happened now 80 years ago.
Wow.
So look at the amount of energy, karmic redemption, and many things that are coming into a point of balance. But we need to be paying attention and be aligned with the synchronic order to be able to recognize that.
Right, and at a time when perhaps for quite a long time in this reality, we haven't had to worry about this, the whole nuclear piece is very much in the viewfinder, in the collective narrative. And perhaps this is the culmination of that point, that gate that was opened 80 years ago, unpleasant as it was.
Unless we're able to go beyond this kind of disruption for the planet, for humans, for different societies. So that is at the heart of what is happening here as well. So talking about this cosmic realignment, there is an alignment of three ancient and modern timekeeping systems, each of them rooted in the principles of the golden ratio or phi. And so what is happening now is that it is opening a gateway to explore profound synchronicities that are embedded within the fabric of time. That is exactly the portal that we're entering. And as we prepare to celebrate this occurrence, we're inviting all of you to enter this moment, a new era with peace, unity, and all of this evolutionary potential in mind, because it is absolutely huge. It's also connected to the cycle that ended in December of 2012. We're celebrating 13 years since that, and you'll see more about the relevance of 13 and the golden ratio and everything here. So in December 21st of 2012, we closed the 13 back tune cycle in the Mayan long count. Let's talk first about the golden ratio, because once we integrate this part of it, then the rest will make a lot of sense. When we talk about the golden ratio, it's also called the divine proportion, and it's a phi, which is equal to 1.618. And so what we're being invited here to do is to synchronize and attune ourselves to the golden proportion, which is the elegant mathematical principle that governs all life and its evolutionary processes, not only here on Earth, but I think in the galaxy and beyond. And it also is reflected in our DNA. And this invisible intelligence is revealed as the divine harmonic blueprint, which is behind the fabric of time and space. So if you think about this pattern, which you see everywhere in nature, it's also within our bodies and in everything else. Of course, time and space will have to reflect that as well. And we see it in architecture, in art, in our bodies, in everything that we can think of that is has coherence as part of it. So we could say that the golden ratio is a fingerprint of sacred geometry, the code behind all creation, the master key to understanding how life, art, and the cosmos are built. And we can describe this principle as love intelligence. That's why I see that love and part of this golden ratio is all interconnected, because it's the perfect balance between art and number, heart and mind, that engenders the organic processes of growth in nature. So we can even call it the golden code of time as well.
Nice.
So how is this calculated? Where does the golden ratio come from? So in order to talk about that, we need to see the Fibonacci sequence, which is where you add one number. These two numbers will reflect the next one. So 1 + 2, 3, 2 + 3 = 5, 3 plus 5 equals 8, and so forth. And so these are the first numbers of the Fibonacci sequence, and already we're seeing very important numbers pop up. Like number 13 is right here, is the seventh number when you think about it. And how is this reflected in our bodies? So we have 13 articulations in our body, counting from the right, I have here the picture, from the right ankle, and we go all the way up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 here in the neck, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. We have the 13 reflected in our body. We have, we work with the frequency of 1320 in the Solkin, which is also reflected here in 20 archetypes, which are our toes and fingers. And then if we look into the DNA, the golden ratio is all part of that as well. So number 7 is our center. So we see here how 7 is the halfway point of 13. Just like 13 is the 7 out of this sequence as well. So 13 and 7 are super important in when we talk about the golden ratio. And if you divide any of those numbers by the previous number, you will get 5, 1.6. So, and the closest that that gets to that actual number is when you divide 144 by 89, you get this number, which is pretty close to the actual 5 number. Okay.
6, wow. So you've also put 13 numbers here, I find interesting. Is that deliberate?
Yeah, it's deliberate to see which are the first 13 numbers that are part of
I was just trying to work out like some of the digits, how they related to like the soreness in my right thumb. I was like, which glyph is that and which one is mine? So this is a useful way to actually be able to ascertain personal traumas on the body by using this and understanding that it's mapped out into your body already through many other factors in the Mayan calendar.
I added here number 4 because 4 is the center of a sequence of 7 numbers, is at the heart of it. And we have 4 limbs. So 4 is also very important. And we have 4 colors, 4 tribes when we talk about the
4 elements, 4 directions.
Elements, 4 directions. So 13 and 4 are also very connected.
Right, so the 4 is the self-existing tone of creating structure. The 7 is the resonant tone of attunement, and then the 13th is the cosmic tone. So that I'm assuming there must be some sort of link between these 3 as well.
For sure, there must be a connection, yes.
Structure, intention, and then the cosmos.
No, attunement is
attunement, yeah.
So we keep on seeing all of this geometry and phi or the golden ratio everywhere, in art, in our bodies, in nature. And we're talking here about harmony, proportion, and beauty, whether it is in our DNA, in our human proportion. Our heart also has that golden ratio. Geometry, we'll see it everywhere. We'll talk about the chemistry, physics, architecture is everywhere when we start looking. And of course, it's part of the sacred geometry. You can see here number 7 in the seed of life when you see 7 circles, or in the egg of life. You have 13 circles in the fruit of life. In Metatron's cube, you have both 7 and 13 as well. So number 7 or 7 circles is the absolute optimal packing arrangement of identical circles. And we see it here in the egg of life. So it is at the heart of all the sacred geometry. And so we could even see the spiral and the sacred geometry even in these periodic tables suggested by Walter Russell. Here are all of the elements, but in a spiral form and kind of increasing with a golden ratio as well. We see the pentagram is also part of that ratio. We see not only sacred geometry, but the cosmos, the galaxies, and even the human embryo. We start from the egg, and then the mitosis takes us all the way through this sacred geometry. So it is inside of us. Anything you want to add there?
No.
So because I just show you the pentagram and the golden ratio, we have to talk about Venus, because Venus also follows the golden ratio in the journey that it has. And it has numbers of the Fibonacci sequence, like every 8 years, Venus completes 13 orbits around the sun. So 8 and 13 is there. And during these 8 years, Venus meets 5 times to create that 5-pointed star. So we have 5, 8, and 13 as part of the Venus cycle. And in June of 2025, we completed 13 years from that transit that he had in 2012, right before we finished the cycle of 2012. And so it's believed that the Venus cycle started, there was one that started from 2020 to 20, and ending in 2028. So we will be like halfway, just over halfway through that cycle of Venus. So there are people that measure it at inferior conjunctions or superior conjunctions, and this is just an example from AstroSig showing us the Venus 8-year cycle from 2022 to 2030. But it's more to show the beautiful geometry and how it is part also of this conversation when it comes to the golden ratio. Venus has a cycle of 585 days, and when you divide 584 by 365 days, you get again 1.6. Every 8 years, there are 2,920 days, which again, if you add it up, is another 13. There are 13 Venus orbits around the sun during this cycle. We know that there is a 5-pointed star in 8 years. There are about 20 months between those points. And if we add up 13 plus 7, that gives us 20 as well. So everything is absolutely very interconnected. So we'll be talking more about Venus. I'm doing some deep research when it comes to the Solkin or the sacred round calendar and how it integrates the Venus cycle as a main marker in many of the events. So that's more to come in maybe some other video. But here I just wanted to keep it to the relevance of the golden ratio and Venus and its cycles. There is another very big cycle of 104 years, which is also followed by the Mayan calendars. And when you multiply 8 years times 13, you get that magic number. And it's also every 52 years, if you have 104, that Venus and the Pleiades also realign to give us the 52-year cycle. So see the amount of things that all kind of converge. And Venus also has 2 journeys. So part of these 584 days is cycles of about 260 days when it becomes a morning star and an evening star. Good. So moving on from that part, we need to talk here about 137 and how it is creating reality through harmonic resonance. And we know that reality is vibrational. Everything emerges through resonance. And the number 137 is the optimal manifestation of reality. It's so important, this number, and it's so important, everything connected to the golden ratio. 137 is also the most illuminating number when it comes to natural cycles. It is the optimal illumination expressed through structure, and we're going to talk about the fine structure constant as well. And so it's very used because it is vibrational. It measures the strength of the electromagnetic force, which is so key at this moment that we're receiving so much energy from the sun, and the electromagnetics of the planet are changing. We've seen how the Schumann resonance keeps on spiking or blacking out and doing all of those crazy things. And here, 137 will help us understand more of those electromagnetic forces. Anything? So let's talk more about the magic of 137. It is related to the probability of photon emission or absorption by an electron. So it is part of advanced chemistry and quantum physics. It plays a role in quantum electrodynamics as well, where it describes how charged particles interact with light. But it could be also how we interact with light, which is very important. Understanding this fine structure constant is crucial for grasping the fundamental forces that govern the behavior of matter in the universe, meaning us as well. This number 137 is very key also to do with generational traits. What is passed on from our parents and down generation by generation is determined by this number as well, by this proportion of 137. It's like the 137 part of a whole. Is that part of the traits that keeps on being passed down. And I'll probably do a little bit more research to show you how this happens, because I found it really interesting because it will connect us back to our DNA. 137 moon cycles is the amount of moon cycles in 11 years or a whole solar cycle. 137 emerges when each cycle is at its optimal state of expression, manifestation, and illumination. And I think this is the key of what is happening with this convergence of timelines, that it is now the optimal moment for manifestation and illumination, and it's what is about to happen in the planet for all of us. When we talk about 137, I was mentioning the strength of the electromagnetic interaction between elementary charged particles. It does play a crucial role in the equations of quantum electrodynamics and the standard model of particle physics. When we talk about chemistry in the chemical area, if we think of chlorophyll, the structure of chlorophyll, if you add up the amount of atoms it has, it comes up to 137 as well. And we know that chlorophyll is how the plant does the photosynthesis and gets and gives us the oxygen that we breathe. So here it is absolutely key, and look at the resemblance of the plant chlorophyll and the human hemoglobin. The difference is mostly with the magnesium element, which is part of chlorophyll, and iron for humans.
But the structure is the same.
The structure is pretty
Plants
similar.
are fueled by photosynthesis based on magnesium, and we're essentially doing the same thing but with iron.
Maybe they hold the key as well for all of us to be able to absorb light more and better.
Mm-hmm.
So 137.5 in geometry is called the golden angle. This is measured in degrees. And the golden ratio is a pattern of radial growth and fractal self-similarity in nature. So when you see plants, they arrange their stems and their leaves for optimal exposure to the sunlight in this pattern of radial symmetry for stability. And as I mentioned before, also the traits, the genetic traits we inherit from generation to generation are part of this geometry as well, or this angle, golden angle. We could think also of the estimated age of the universe in billions of years, which is about 13.7, 13.8. That's also part of this. And in math, 137 is the 33rd prime number. So there are many correlations between number 33 and 137. I want to give a shout out here to Dr. Danny, who is suggesting this golden angle to be part of the astrology, and I absolutely support that. She's calling it the Phoenix angle, because we'll be realigning with this, with the golden ratio, if we start looking at this angle or this degree, these aspects within our constellational charts.
Right, and I don't know whether you cover this later in the presentation, Bella, but of course the 33 prime number is also corresponding with the 33 degrees of masonry, which when you get to that 33rd degree, that's when you really open the doors to the universe. Supposedly, the 33 stages or degrees prep really to become a grand master, which is when you really get the keys to the universe. So maybe 137 represents the threshold.
Probably.
Of a galactic consciousness as opposed to simply human consciousness.
Yeah, only that some of these groups have manipulated the knowledge, not necessarily for life and for the highest good of all, but for control and power. So we need to be careful with some of those more secret societies that have had the knowledge, but have used it for their own benefit as well.
Yeah.
So let's talk more about pi. This number, we'll see it everywhere, but we've been talking about it. And we also talk about 443 years since the beginning of the Gregorian calendar, and that is equivalent to 161,801 days. But you can see here also 1618 as part of the pattern, whether it is a fractal or however we look at it, it is the golden ratio reflected in the time. So this is why we are seeing that the convergence of time with the Gregorian calendar is about to happen now during the month of October, and I'll go more into the dates in a minute. So let's talk about the fine structure constant first, which is when you divide 1 by 37, by 137, sorry, there is a typo here. Then you get this fine structure constant, and look at the number that you get, 0.007, 007. I didn't know it came from here, but there it goes. But what I wanted to show is that is a palindrome. You can read it forwards or backwards, 7299, 7200, 7299, and it's the same. So it's one of those things that the universe kind of puts out there for us to read and understand that there is a synchronicity as well. And I mentioned how important the fine structure constant is. Because it quantifies the strength of electromagnetic interactions between charged particles. It's important in quantum mechanics and atomic physics. It's used as a standard model of particle physics, but it's also very key in cosmology and fundamental constants, which is exactly what we're going into, how the cosmos is so connected to these constant and to the golden ratio that now we're getting to experience that convergence, and we all get to experiment what is going to happen when we all realign with this. So in sacred geometry, this is the angle I was talking about, 137.5 degrees. It's called the golden angle, the golden ratio pattern of radial growth and fractal self-similarity in nature. So it's how nature itself experiences light and growth and everything. So this is what we should be paying attention, because we're part of the planet and we should realign with this sacred geometry as well. Here we can see the golden triangle as well, which is also part of this sacred geometry and the connection to phi. I won't go deep into this. It's just to give you an example on how, if you want to go deeper into geometry, you'll see it reflected absolutely everywhere. And you almost see the pentagram again, which is the connection to Venus, the five-pointed star, the vesica pieces in sacred geometry, and much more. So for those of you into mathematics, there is so much to play here, and I do invite you to do a lot of that. So 137.5, you could see here. So I thought of this symbol, the symbol for peace, because it kind of reflects the angle of 137.5 degrees. It also reflects when you have a Venus conjunction, when you have a superior conjunction, you normally get this as well. And you see it a lot in astrology as well, with the movement of the planets. So I think this symbol has a lot more to offer than just the peace symbology that is being given. So 137.5, to start wrapping up the part about the numbers, it is the optimal self-similarity number. This is self-similar regeneration in natural cycles. So we're getting to a point where we're going to converge and regenerate, is basically what it's telling us. Anything you want to add? So that's for the math and the golden ratio part of it. Let's go into what happened with the intersection, with the convergence of these timelines. So 443 years ago, since the Gregorian calendar was started, it's been 13 years since 2012, which is the fractal of the evolutionary process, which we've been going through. We closed the big cycle in 2012. And now, October 14 and 15 of 2025 are those days of the convergence. So definitely put it in your calendars and start making a plan. Something similar to a harmonic convergence where many thousands of people can put the intention of us being willing to set a new tone for our reality, for this planet. Where we think of a new place which is full of harmony, of unity, of forgiveness, of everything that has been caused over the last 443 years through technology, through the Gregorian calendar, through institutions, through taxation, through debt, through everything, slavery in general. Think of the last 443 years and how we can now dissolve and come to a point of convergence. Yeah.
Right.
So here, this is the way you can write the calendar. We are here reading a new back tune, and the new cycle of Sirius is what this means. We're in 138, 38 years, moon 3, and days 25 and 26 are going to be equivalent to October 14, 15, or Kins 204 and 205. So definitely put it in your calendar. It's part of this castle that we are experiencing at the moment. So we've been talking about the Solkin. We follow the sacred realm, and the celestial harmonics is the way to realign ourselves with this golden ratio by following this cycle of 260 days, which is a 1320 frequency. There are 20 wave spells of 13 days each. There are 5 castles of 52 days each. And there are 4 wave spells per castle. And once you get into these new poles, new way of experiencing time is when you start integrating this within your mind and within your DNA as well. You're a good example of having experienced it for the last few years with me.
Yeah, I mean, personally, what I have experienced and what I've shared as a part of this journey is not to try and understand all of this from the mind, but just to incorporate it and to live it and to experience the profundity of how it all intersects, how it is all synchronistic, how it's all very precise, because you can't observe those things just by learning something from the left side of your brain. It doesn't work. It's just information otherwise, and it remains abstract. But when you take the information and just begin simply by incorporating it, you start to feel the energy of the waves that you're in. You start to feel the energy of the kin that's directing the wave, or the moon. All of these different layers start to become palpable presences that you experience and feel both in your body, in your energy field, but also in the unfolding of your life through the wave spells and through the journeys.
And if you've been part of this with us or without us, maybe you're part of other groups following the calendar, please comment how you experience it, and maybe tips for people to continue to follow this new way of experiencing a coherent time.
Yeah, in fact, this is an invitation for anyone watching this video to please comment, share your experiences working with this technology that our brother Jose and Lloydine and Stephanie have also added to as well. And please also do hit like if you like this video. It all helps here. But most of all, we want interaction with people's experiences, because when we bring people together who've all worked with this this reality changing time coding sequence, we get a different filter with which to view reality through, by how our brothers and sisters in the same frequency pitch are also experiencing it, as we've been sharing on this channel in our immersions for the last 3 years. It creates a co-creative, unified consciousness field with everybody who's participating in it at the same frequency.
And maybe there are over 144,000 people around the planet already feeling and experiencing this different way of measuring time and having a completely different experience of their realities.
Right. And as Bella said many times before, in this system, and as Jose said, time is art, whereas in the 1260, really time is going to work and being productive in that sequence. And we can say maybe after reviewing these, even just after 3 years, this system is much more conducive to being inspired, being in the flow, being in creative, whereas the other one actually seems harmony,
harmonic resonance.
Whereas the other one seems to stymie that by giving these unnatural breaks and pauses and conclusions to things that aren't really a conclusion at all. And so it becomes incoherent.
Mm-hmm. So here you have an example of the 20 glyphs and the 13 tones, and then they rotate, and there's always, every day is a combination of one of those with one of those. And here is the target, King 204 and King 205. They are going to be part of this wave spell of the warrior. I'll show you in a few slides. And we're around here. We just started this wave spell of the earth, which is all about synchronicities and navigation. So we are now navigating towards this very important moment or portal of convergence. And we're getting into very close into the three-eye atlas and how it plays part of all of this. It's all interconnected. So at the time of the harmonic convergence, 38 years ago, in August 16, 17 of 1987, it marked the end of Quetzalcoatl's prophecy of the 13 heavens and 9 hells. Many of you have done the Mayan time and magic. We talk more about that part of the mythology there. But basically, it's part of a prophecy, a living prophecy, whereby following certain points in time, we get to remove the 9 hells, basically, which is removing the karma from the planet. At this time in 1987, there was a supernova explosion called SN 1987A, and it came from the Large Magellanic Cloud, which is also known as the Tarantula Cloud, or it has many different names. But basically, it's a dwarf satellite galaxy of the Milky Way, which sent us so many neutrinos. And imagine the power of this moment to our consciousness, to our solar system, when this explosion occurred at the same time of the harmonic convergence. So this global peace meditation had a huge effect in the planet, not only because of what we were talking about counteracting the effects of what happened in Japan, in Hiroshima, and all of that, but it was setting us into the track, the path for the end of 2012 and the beginning of all this new cycle. And this year of 2025 is the 38-year anniversary of the culmination of this prophetic cycle, which is synchronizing with all of those things that we're going to talk about. We also aligned with Sirius every year in the day out of time and the first day of the lunar solar calendar, which is July 26. We see, I did this in the computer the other day, you get to see Sirius rising at the same time as the sun, and you see them coming behind the pyramid of Quetzalcoatl in Teotihuacan. So there are markers that have been following this cycle so closely for so many thousands of years. So we've already completed these 45 sacred cycles of 260 days since that happened. And now we're ready with these 38 years later, and I'll show you why 38 is important, also connected to the golden ratio. We're ready to do this convergence. And what is happening now with 3i Atlas is that it is believed from the scientific reports of the last few days that it could come from the Large Magellanic Cloud. It's not confirmed. There are many studies. They are saying that because of the amount of CO2 it contains and the part of the galaxy where it came from. But we'll leave that open because we're not certain. But I think there is a big connection here.
It makes me think, and maybe this is a tangent, but the Large Magellanic Cloud, as described in the Cosmic History Code of the Stellar Nations, is the energy output of Great Mother Spider, the weaver of everything, of the web of life. And we, unfortunately, down here on planet Earth, haven't been living with that benefic web of life. We've been living with an inverted version of that. So that's an interesting... The artificial grid as controlled by male tarantulas rather than Great Mother Spider. At least that's the Cosmic History Code's archetypal story version. But we can understand that we have been living under this false grid. So maybe there's something in that. Maybe this is a gift from the universe to help free us from that. Who knows?
Mm-hmm. So let me share with you now the Pacal the Great and the Living Prophecy. He was born on a day called 8 Ahau 13 Pop. It would be like Sun 8 and the month 13, something like that. So these 13 clear signs of Pacal Votan were left all around his tomb, the lid of his tomb, and we can see them here. We've been following them, all of these Solkin, and I highlighted them here. We've followed all of those first ones already. We went past this one as well, and now there are 3 left. There are those last 3 points or signs of Pacal Votan. On Kin 211, we have a gap day with the electric monkey on 21st of October. That's this one coming up here. We have on Kin 220, another point, which is a crystal sun or sun number 12 on the 30th of October. And the last of those glyphs is on Kin 245 with the spectral serpent on the 24th of November. So this to me seems very relevant because we are part of this prophecy where enough people needed to be aware of the synchronic order for this living prophecy to be experienced fully and for the reality we live in to change. And according to Hopi tradition, 144,000 rainbow warriors or sun dancers would gather at the end of this cycle to unite the earth. Light workers worldwide suggest that at that time, people will have their choice to accept or reject the Creator's plan for peace on earth. And this is more relevant than ever because we're seeing the political arena, we're seeing what different countries are doing, we see how they try to struggle for control and power and financial, whatever they're trying to do. But this is prophetically seen now as the return of Quetzalcoatl, who is the ancient Mayan tradition. He's also known as the god of the planet Venus. And we just talked about Venus. And in the mythology, Kukulkan returned to Venus, which is supposedly where he comes from, Venus in a higher dimensional reality. We know that planets have a 3D, a 4D, a 5D, some have 6, 7D. So we don't know if this could be part of the reality of what is happening now, but I think is absolutely interconnected.
Right, anyone who's been watching the Quantum Compass show during this last year will be aware that we've been flagging these sort of prophecy days, Quetzalcoatl, Pacal Votan, clear days, as they've come up and been trying to feel into the sequences of the energies of the glyphs and their position in an unfolding. And right from the beginning of this particular cycle with these glyphs, we felt that this was perhaps a point where they would make even more sense because of all of the big changes going on in our reality at the energetic level. And so I think it's worth taking a few moments just to feel into the energies as they come in. So we have a tone 3 monkey, which is being in service with the energies of the monkey of play and magic.
Inner child.
Inner child.
Innocence.
Right. We then have a crystal sun, and the crystal tone is really asking us to be in cooperation.
And the grid, the connection to the crystalline grid of the planet is also part of number
But
12.
with the universal fire and enlightening energies of the sun. So it could mean, for example, that we are all in a more awake, enlightened state and wanting to cooperate and co-create by the 30th of October. That would be amazing, right? So perhaps we can intend that. And then the final one is the spectral serpent, which is really liberation from or through the serpent energy.
The serpent and freeing of the serpent itself, which is our Kundalini and life force energy. So it's reaching ourselves a point of freedom.
So if we're following this sequence and we did the same exercise with the other tones, there is a sort of a storyline that plays out. And then the question is, well, how does that fit with the reality that we're living in? So that's what we've been doing, trying to put the pieces together over the course of this last Solkin.
So let me show you this. We end the Solkin here with Kin 260, which is the cosmic sun and another gap day. And what happens around that time, December the 9th, is when we get to see Atlas again in our sky and it gets the closest to planet Earth. Are we talking about the feather serpent that the ancient Mayans were talking about? Maybe. We don't know. We don't know exactly what Atlas is, but what we do see is the relevance in this moment of convergence.
There may be something in this because we have associated the avatar of Kulkulkan potentially with the Irish mythological hero of Kulkulan, who also had similar energies. And so perhaps these were reflections by the ancestors of cosmic appearances in the sky that could have been meteors with tails, who then, through bardic storytelling, then become part of folklore because maybe the stories that they tell after those comets are visited actually symbolically share the energies that these interstellar visitors bring to our planet.
We'll go more into Atlas in a minute, so we can talk more about that. But here, let me wrap up the part about the Solkin and the sacred count. So the sacred count of 262 days is reflected here on this medicine wheel, starting on the east with fire, a castle of fire, a red castle, then air with a white castle, blue representing water in the west, and in the south, earth with this yellow color. So we are here doing this wave spell of the earth, but here's where all the action is going to happen during the wave spell of the yellow warrior. Why do I think this is important? Because many of us have been doing so much inner work, training to become these light warriors for a moment when this was required. And I think it's not just about these 2 days, which are going to happen, which is a seed and the serpent, 204 and 205. I think it's the whole wave spell, because if you saw in the Gregorian calendar, they removed a whole series of days. So I think what this is calling us to do is to do a very conscious being present during this whole wave spell here of the yellow warrior, doing day by day the repairing of time, the repairing of timelines, the convergence, putting our input into what we want for peace, for harmony, for a new future. And I think what Atlas is going to do as well is to bring that new light of consciousness, the seeding of a new world.
Right, so in this particular castle, we have the four way spells, of course, and the Yellow Warrior is the final one in the castle. So perhaps that'll be the culmination point of what this castle of the Earth, which is initiated with the magnetic Earth, which of course was yesterday as we were recording this. And so it seems like all of the focus is on the Earth for the transformation. And this particular castle, Bella, if I'm remembering correctly, is the Earth to the mirror to the
earth
nine
to the dog.
To the dog, sorry.
Are you talking about this wave spell?
Yeah,
or
this
from
way.
one to the next?
The sequence through this castle is the Earth to the
The
dog.
wolf to the dog, to the knight, and then the warrior. And the beauty of this particular one I'm talking about, the wave spell of the yellow warrior, is that it ends with the star, the cosmic star or Venus.
Mm.
And then when we close the Solkin in this green castle, which is like the ether and where we integrate everything, Venus starts the last one, and the sun is the one that closes. It's absolutely perfect. It's so beautiful and so synchronistic.
And of course, in every castle, we have a mini spin through the four directions, the four elements. And so this is the fractal nature of this really kind of coming into play. And there is a little story that is told in each castle between each of the four kin that are the wave bearing kin. And so that's also something to feel into. But again, this is the experiential part of working with 1320. You can only perceive the energetic qualities of the castles, of the wave spells, how they relate to each other, how they loop back, the sequencing, the positions of the oracles each day, by actually observing them, integrating them, feeling them. Otherwise, it all gets a little abstract in some way. So this is a very experiential process, teaching us how to be at one with the universe.
Mm-hmm. So I highlighted here the 2 days for 14th and 15th of October of 2025. It's Kin 204 with the solar seed and Kin 205 with the red planetary serpent. And we're going to talk about the serpent and the connection to Atlas as well. It's all part of the same story and the work that we've been doing with turning with integrating the serpent, including the serpent's constellation into the 13th sign. Constellational astrology is absolutely key to this process as well, and you'll see why.
Right. And of course, if you've been following us for a while, you'll know that we've been investigating all of these things, inviting all of you, our watchers and audience, into the same journey that we've been in. And many of you have embraced that, particularly switching from the Western tropical system of astrology to the 13 true sidereal constellational astrology. And many of us have realized it's like, oh my gosh, like that's where everything really is. That's where this energy is coming from, not from the offset tropical version, which has given us many things to reflect on. But it all seems very pertinent because we've come to the point where we're making that switch at a time when there's going to be a massive planetary switch. So it seems even our own lines of inquiry and research with all of you, our followers and tribe members, is all coming to a place of culmination, which is also fascinating in its own way.
And talking about culmination, so I think here we get to see number 38. Number 38 is a number of years since 1987, and it corresponds to two 19-year lunar cycles. You saw the first slide that had the two, what are they called?
Flower of life.
Flowers of life. But you can see here the 19-year lunar solar Metonic cycle, it's also reflected here in the same geometry. So it's another way of the geometry and the cosmos to show us how there is another synchronicity here. And number 19 encodes the total number of circles contained within the flower of life. So see again, the synchronicities coming to the same point, showing us that we are going back to the origin, or to that origin point, ending and beginnings. So it is from all of this research I've been putting together before we go into the Atlas conversation, it is a new time, and it's what is being put on the table for us. But it requires humanity to be wanting peace, to be wanting a new cycle, to be working on their consciousness, and not to be relating time to money or to other things, or maybe the more materialistic world.
Right. I mean, so this whole switch is going to require a lot of mental focus, mental discipline, daily discipline, and putting your conscious awareness to this process. There's no real easy way to say this, but if you want to be a citizen of the universe, you first of all have to accept the universe and your position in the universe. All of you, not just the 3D version that you see in the mirror, but all of the other non-physical aspects of your consciousness, your fourth dimension, fifth dimension, sixth, seventh, eighth dimensional selves are also existing in the universe. And in order to become one with them, you have to actually invite them in and give them conscious awareness, which is true for all of the universe. If you want to be a multidimensional citizen of the universe, you have to sort of open your arms and accept and embrace that. And so we see this culmination, right, Bella, coming up is a way to do that, is a way to invite all of these energies in consciously and with awareness. But it requires, I would suggest, daily focus in some way, just to keep that channel nice and open and clear.
So when we're talking about this convergence of timelines, is a unification of past, present, and future. As I've already shown, there are so many synchronization. And I've just talked about some of the most prominent within a very broad spectrum of mathematical alignments at this moment, which are serving as divine confirmations that highlight the prophetic nature of the golden intersection of timelines happening now in October 14, 15 of 2025. So the invitation is to honor these two unique days, this window of opportunity to reconnect with the original pulse of time, and do it through our heart. This is a very rare numerical synchronization. It's happening between the ancient Mayan long count, the Gregorian calendar, the galactic Maya count, which is the one we're all following here with the quantum compass, and everything coordinated by the golden ratio, by the heart of mathematics in the universe. So this is the big moment for harmony, for to put nature first, to put the earth first, to put peace at the heart of it all, where we create a new or visualize that new future based on love, art, sacred order, doing what you love, compassion, and everything that we've been talking about when it comes to new earth. What are we going to intention in this unique window of opportunity? Can we even organize a global meditation where hundreds of thousands of people are all setting the intention for the same thing? And it's not up to the elites and the governments to decide what happens to the rest of the planet, but to many hundreds of thousands of people, or hopefully millions, doing that intention of this is what we want, this is our decision, we want to realign with the cosmos, we want to live in harmony, we want to celebrate the consciousness and unite around it, around mathematics and a new history for humankind.
Right. I mean, it's amazing to think that this possibility is here now, but at the same time, there is also the requirement to show up for yourself in this process. The requirements to step into that kind of frequency or that kind of reality or environment do require some internal alchemy. To work with the so-called shadow or the density. This will be beneficial to be released and create more space for more of the universal cosmic rays, the spectrum of rays that are actually always with us, but perhaps we weren't able to receive before. And I think you did it on the little chart there as we're shifting from a carbon-based life form to a silica-based life form. It's the next evolution of who we are. We're becoming more light-filled, and that's where having to remove the density actually becomes an important factor. And wanting to step up to be a cosmic citizen is something you need to put an intention to and give some energy towards. Otherwise, if you're just lounging on the sofa, you'll probably just stay lounging on the sofa.
So this is why I had some urgency to put in this video out. I couldn't even sleep last night because he was like, no, you have to do it. It has to go out soon.
In fact, it's been a couple of weeks of that, right?
I've been going into deeper stuff, but this specifically for the last 3 days is really been pushing because there is urgency to put in the message out that this is once in a lifetime event, one opportunity to do this for you, for your family, for your friends. The more of us that are aware of this intersection, of this opportunity, of this portal and the significance that it has, where we recover and reclaim time, we repair time, reclaim it. And those three that we've been talking about, the Gregorian, the ancient long count, and the galactic Maya count, all synchronize with mathematical precision, guided by the golden ratio. This unique convergence will never occur again. I don't know the mathematics on when it will happen again, but it is a once in a lifetime, and this is the moment for us to do this. So 14 and 15 of October, marking the 443 years since then. I think we've talked about this, and the harmony of the golden ratio. So it is also a spiral vortex of harmony. We see that everything is created and organized in our galaxy and in the universe following these harmonic resonance and structures. So this is the opportunity for us to realign, to live in and experience in that, the way the plants grow, thrive, and as becoming healthy, regenerating, and experiencing beauty and harmony.
So the invitation is a return to the natural, organic, fractal order of the universe.
Pretty much. Let me talk about these 13 years. So another 13. There was a space and time alignment in 2012 by the end of that big long count. That galactic alignment in 2012 marked the pivotal shift for Earth and the Sun and the solar system as we align with the dark rift at the heart of the Milky Way. This is called the dark rift, where you see the galactic center. And in fact, in Peru, the before the Incas even, and the ancient Mayans, the Olmec, many of them followed parts of the dark rift rather than the ecliptic. They had the calculations for the planet cycles, but when they looked at the sky, their mythology was very much in this part of of the sky. And I think that's been part of the research I've been doing more and more recently, since we're going into constellational astrology. we haven't been looking too much at this part of the universe, and Three-Eye Atlas is reminding us to look at that part, and I'll go into where it came from and what parts of the of our cosmos or of our sky has been touching and why it is important. So this astronomical event of 2012 coincided with the completion of 13 Bactuns in the Mayan long count, and it reset to 13,000. So that symbolized the transition into a new evolutionary stage. We entered 2012. It wasn't about the end of the world. It was about entering the new evolutionary stage where we can become cosmic humans, where we can be more advanced and activate our DNA and reach higher levels of consciousness and create a different Earth for all of us. So, anything else that you want to add about the cycles?
No, I mean, the only thing that's on my mind, and I don't think we've covered this yet, is that when the harmonic convergence happened in 87, it was perceived that the resetting that came out of that was to prevent the original disaster timeline, right? Which I've subsequently perceived went into a parallel experience since 2012, when many of us have subsequently had that extra time to wake up. It was almost like we weren't really ready as a collective in 2012. There weren't enough people who had all of the pieces of the jigsaw or hadn't started the journey yet. But many people, like us included, and many of our tribe, have entered into that journey probably since 2010 or 2012 specifically, and are now coming to the end of that cycle within ourselves.
Right.
I can definitely say that from 2012 till now, it's been a 13-year cycle for me. Weirdly, I am kin number 13, so this is all incredibly personal for me, helping to understand my galactic essence. So it seems that we're coming to this kind of very nuanced point in a Scorpion lunar moon of catalyzation. So having to let go of things that no longer serve us so that we can step up into the universal mix. But if that parallel timeline was created in 2012, it seems like now that those two lines of the ascension timeline, which is what Brother Jose called in, and the original disaster timeline, they've been running in parallel, but some of us have switched a bit like a railway track to a parallel line to move on to the ascension line. But now those two lines are going to come back into a convergence point somehow. And there's going to be, I don't know, something is going to happen to our reality, perhaps based on frequencies, so that we enter into, at least from my perspective, into a unified timeline.
Or are we going into a deeper bifurcation process?
Also possible. Also possible. I think we've been living somewhat in a world that has had a bifurcation process going on since 2012. I mean, I look at the person I am now as opposed to 2012. I'm a very different person. And in fact, pretty much everybody I know is different in some ways. Maybe some people have evolved and expanded. Some people have contracted and become more narrow. So I think it's a very interesting pivot point from 2012 till now.
Mm-hmm. So with this slide, I wanted to show how in the ancient Maya long count, we are now resetting to 1313, basically. This is what is happening now for us, 13 years after the 2012 cycle, resets the clock to this. So we are resetting with number 13, and everything we've been doing has been so much about number 13. So there is another date I'd like you to pay attention to, which is just in a couple of days, August the 31st, is Kin 160 or for a how. And that is a sacred harmonic marker that embodies the golden ratio. So if you look at the soul kin, the whole, what I just showed you before, and you divide 260 days by 160, which is this kin, you get 1.625. Again, the golden ratio. And if you divide that kin 160 by 100, which is the remaining days to the end of the soul kin, you get 1.6 again. So in a couple of days, I think we're going to enter the beginning of this realignment with this glyph of for a how, or the self-existing sun. So I think it's another day to put in the calendar to start this process. I think the whole castle, the whole yellow castle is important, starting with this, how we're going to give form to the new part of the process. For how also connects and echoes the beginning of this cycle in 3113 BC, which is the cycle of 5,125 years ago.
It's also a mirror year, right?
It's also a mirror year. There are so many beautiful things in mathematics here.
Mirror year with the 13s, that's pretty magical.
It's very magical. Right. So this is the wave spell where everything is going to happen in October. So it is the warrior wave spell, the yellow warrior, and it's telling us about strategizing, having a plan. What are we going to do as we come here to the solar seed, kin 204, and to the planetary serpent, kin 205. So it's to give you the visual on a whole wave spell that is going to be so important to repair and reclaim time. And as I mentioned before, we close with Venus or the cosmic star Lamat. So let's start summarizing before we go into the Atlas connection here. On October 14th and 15th, the invitation is to be heart-centered, probably be in meditation, to do something special, maybe in a sacred site, maybe with people, to have very aligned intentions and thoughts, be very present without too much resistance, surrender to the higher order, be in resonance with source code, the source code of life, or Phi. Anything else you want to add to ideas on what we can do on that day?
No, I mean, I think with the energy patterns, the way they have been in the last few weeks and the way that they look to be unfolding, I would suggest that a daily practice of quiet time, inwards reflection, meditation, exercise, centering, grounding, maintaining your boundaries both individually, but also maybe within your property space, and just making sure that you have a nice harmonious, conducive energy space in which to spend most of your time. I know that many people are finding some spaces difficult to interact with, some people difficult to interact with due to the discrepancies in the frequencies, maybe part of the bifurcation. So if that is the case, then don't put yourself in that position. Try to limit the exposure to frequencies that maybe aren't conducive to that, and just find a nice happy space, which probably for most people is their home, their garden especially. Connect with nature, maybe do some gardening, but just do things that feel good and inspiring, and try to avoid any projections from people, situations, devices that are of a lower frequency that move you out of that space. Because the more space you have to become, the more chance you have to be able to connect with those aspects of yourself that are already playing a significant part in whatever your role is in this unfolding, because for sure it's already been planned. Even if you're not fully aware of the plans, your higher self absolutely is. So that's why spending quiet time to tune into that aspect of yourself, to receive the intuitions, the guidance, the downloads, the navigation, is probably pretty important.
Mm-hmm. And if you want to organize a meditation in your community or a group or with your loved ones and try to celebrate that process and enter consciously, because it's now a complete reharmonization with all of creation, and it's attuning us, like I wrote here, like in a grand piano that is returning to that perfection of harmonic resonance in our bodies as well as tuning forks,
Right.
returning to that point of harmonic resonance. So our DNA and our physical bodies should feel the resonance of that.
Right, and then the typically precise way that this all works, we are in this lunar moon of challenge, and that's another way of understanding that perhaps if we have anything in our field that still needs to be alchemized, catalyzed, then those triggers that come up for us during this moon before this kicks in October are an excellent opportunity for us to have a self review process and say, oh my gosh, I was getting absolutely triggered by all of these people and this stuff. Those are the cues for you to sit and do the inwards reflection and work on those trigger points and harmonize them, because the best way to navigate the tumultuous emotional polarization of the 3 and 4D is to sit on your eagle's perch from the 5D non-dual perspective of unconditional love, where everything is always okay. So that is the antidote to anything that comes up, is to go into meditation, elevate your perspective to the part of you that always resides on that fifth dimensional eagle's perch.
So, talking about this unique portal, and we could be talking about something that hasn't happened for 26,000 years, which is the cycle that the ancient Mayans were following, and we know is the precession of the equinoxes and many other things. So, when you divide 26,000 by 5, you also get, look at this number, which has the 137, if you read it backwards, 317. 173, but it's also a palindrome.
Yeah.
So again, it's like there is a hidden golden ratio within that numerology as well. Right, let's talk about Atlas. And in order to talk about 3i Atlas, we need to talk first about the James Webb Telescope, which has been the star identifying things that have been happening even since 1987. But first, pay attention here to the geometry on how they arranged this according to what? Which we saw before, sacred geometry and the flower of life is how they are reading everything in the cosmos.
Interesting.
But let me tell you that this telescope spotted a neutron star which was hidden for 38 years. This was last year that they spotted this. So in the article, which I'm going to share the link for, it said that it had been hidden for 37 years in the wreckage of a stellar explosion supernova in 1987. Which one is that? The one for the harmonic convergence. So they found a wreckage last year and they haven't talked about it. And now we have an interstellar object also coming our way, saying that it could even come from the Magellanic Cloud. I don't know, but I think there is a lot more to research here and there could be some connections there. But these are the pictures that the telescope gave for 1987. And what was happening. So using this telescope, astronomers have ended this is from last year. They have ended a nearly decade-long game of celestial hide and seek after they discover a neutron star in the wreckage of a stellar explosion. That's from the supernova we've been talking about, which represents the remains of an exploded star that once had a mass around 8 to 10 times that of our sun. Imagine how big this star was. And located this far away in the Magellanic Cloud, which is a dwarf galaxy neighboring us from the Milky Way. So the object could be coming from here, for all we know, from this explosion that happened. And the explosion happened in the harmonic convergence year. So I think there are many things here to read. This one here is the link if you want to go and read more about it from livescience.com. So it also says, this one is super important, that this supernova first showered the Earth with ghostly particles called neutrinos and then became visible in bright light. This made it in the nearest and brightest supernova seen in the night sky for over 400 years. But this is the important part. Supernova explosions such as these are responsible for seeding the cosmos with elements like carbon, oxygen, silicon, and iron. Are we getting our upgrading elements? Are we getting the next round of energy and chemicals that are going to change us, our DNA, and maybe even our solar system? Because these elements are become the building blocks of the next generation of stars and planets, and of course, beings that inhabit those planets as well, and can even form molecules that may one day become integral to life as we know it. These explosions also birth compact stellar remnants, either in the form of neutron stars or black holes. So all of this, I think, is connected to what we're going to talk about with Atlas. Could this be one of those remains? Could it be something that came out of this explosion, or is it something completely different? But the fact that they haven't talked about it, they talked about it last year, but now this year is something else. It makes me question things a little bit.
I mean, me personally, the pieces are quite interesting to put together because it comes from the large Magellanic Cloud, which links it back to the tarantula nova explosion in '87. And as we know from the cosmic history codes, the Magellanic Cloud is very connected to the mother spider energies of the repository of many life-giving eggs or jewels, we can say. And so, if I think about that in a more literal sense, that could very much be a sort of a Prometheus moment of new engineered DNA being released onto the planet, maybe universal DNA in the form of these different molecular compounds you've just listed that allow us to have an upgrade. maybe prevent more nefarious things happening on the planet. I personally perceive that Atlas 3i is something positive, although I suspect that the narrative is going to try and present the opposite,
Create fear,
is to
maybe.
create fear. Just judging from the language that's being used, the repetition of the phrase, it's the size of Manhattan. Once you've heard that on 5 different media outlets, you know that it's part of an agenda. And I don't know.
Let me say here, we don't know obviously
No.
exactly what it is, and we invite everybody to do a meditation to try and see how does it feel in your body, what can this object be, is it a comet, is it a rock, is it a spaceship, what it is, we don't know exactly, but what we do know is that the timing of it is absolutely crucial for us and this moment of the shift in evolutionary everything, cosmology and the advancement of humanity.
Right. So, I mean, we don't know exactly what this is. We have our intuitions. Bella's done this amazing research that somewhat confirms some things that we were feeling, but don't have any answers on. But I personally don't think we should be in a place of fear about this, despite whatever efforts are put out there to drum up fear. Because imagine if this was something that could radically upgrade the whole planet, the whole ascension process. And some people, for whatever their agendas, decide, no, we need to blow this thing up because it's going to be an alien invasion. Well, I mean, the truth is, we know that these extraterrestrial beings have been with us pretty much forever. In fact, we've got their DNA within us. So this is a preposterous story to put on us.
Many of you do dowsing, meditation, tarot reading, fungi journeys, all of those things. So you can go and do your own research and see what you feel, see what you get in your body medicine and what kind of information you receive about it. What I'm presenting here is more about the timing and the relevance of this very moment in time.
But by presenting the timing, Bella, and linking all of it together, we've got some perhaps more concrete validatory hits of what this energy might be bringing from the universe because of all of the coherency with the very coherent 1320 calendar. I personally tend to put more of my belief into these things than something that comes off YouTube necessarily from an AI voice, or maybe even from space agencies who've got their own agendas. So what we're really suggesting is feel into the energy of what this is all for you, and then maybe put the comments and we can see if there are any coherent themes. If we get a massive stream of everybody saying the same thing, well, then maybe that's the frequency that this is putting out, and that's what we should be attuning to, and not attuning to somebody else's impression of what it is.
And here's some of the information I gather about this 3i Atlas. It is approaching Mars around October the 1st through the 4th. So that's when we're going to get more of an effect. We know that through astrology, we get lots of those effects. So imagine if this is expanding so many particles and we're getting that energy through Mars around October time. And then soon after we get into the convergence, then it's really close to the sun between the 21st and 31st. They say that the closest day is the 29th, 30th. And we're going to have from the 21st, like a superior conjunction where the sun is going to send us all of the energy that is coming from that interstellar object, as if it was a superior conjunction giving us all of that energy directly to the planet. So we want to be paying attention to those dates as well.
Right.
It's going...
Go on, sorry.
It's going to be near Venus from November the 3rd through the 6th. Then it's not going to be visible around this period of time. I think we'll only see it in September. But then it becomes visible again at the beginning of December as we're closing the Solkin. And it's really close to Earth around the 17th, 18th of December, close to Christmas time and closing the cycle since 2012. So there are many, many, many points and markers that are being hit within this period of time between now and the end of the year. Next year is going to be close to Jupiter, and then it exits the solar system. It's going to be close to Jupiter around March time.
There's also something interesting here if you've been making the tropical Western astrology switch to the 13 true sign sidereal constellational astrology. is that when 3i Atlas is closest to the sun, ordinarily, particularly October the 21st to the 31st, that's the time of Samhain and it would be in Scorpio. But in actual fact, if we look in the sky, the sun is going to be in the latter degrees of Virgo, right?
Yeah.
Which is also about really the earth and about healing, about connection to nature. And so maybe that is a validation of what many of us probably have been wishing and dreaming for many years, is that we live in a world where there is much more a connection between humans and nature and the natural organic environment.
In fact, the whole constellation of Virgo is the biggest in our 13 sign real constellational astrology, and it represents the sacred feminine, the mother goddess, and she's gonna have this object being like a sperm that comes as Mars is there as well, and then Venus. And it's going to happen really close to Spica, which is the angel star or fixed star that we talk about in stellar nations. So we're going ahead of ourselves. We're going to talk astrology in a few slides. So let me just show you this first, and then we'll go into that part. So with 3i Atlas, this comet from interstellar space, its trajectory is clockwise. This is the journey. It came from outside the solar system, then is around here. It's going to be really close to Mars, then really close to the sun around here and the Earth, and then it goes close to Jupiter and it exits. But the funny thing is that it's traveling at 137,000 miles per hour. There is the number again. And it's apparently going to accelerate from that. They have been reporting a color, a red tail type of plasma energy that is behind it. And it makes me think of Quetzalcoatl or the feather serpent or Kukulkan. Is that what the ancient Mayans saw in the sky as moving with a red tail? Was it a feather serpent? What they gave a name to maybe a comet? And so there is also the possibility of it coming from the Magellanic Cloud because of its CO2 composition, as we were talking about. So there are many things here that could link it to the prophecy of Pacal Votan or the return of Quetzalcoatl.
Right, and there are people out there reporting on the structure and nature of the comet and saying that even though its nucleus, as reported, is something akin to the size of Manhattan, apparently, I don't know how they could.
This is what it looks like.
Right.
I don't know how real
And
this
so
is.
I know many of you who follow our show also watch our colleague and brother Stefan Burns, and he's been saying that if you look at it from the point of view of the size of the plasma and the dust cloud that is surrounding this comet, it's actually half the diameter of our sun, which is quite an astounding thing to think about if those calculations are correct, because the sun is by far the biggest thing in our solar system. And if that huge ball of plasma and dust is going to have a pretty close flyby of Mars, I'm wondering what the effects of that are going to be. And if it has that effect on Mars, then it also flies pretty close to Earth because it's going to absolutely dwarf both us and Mars. So we should, in theory, see this potentially as that bright red dust ball flying through the sky, which would be, well, it would be pretty spectacular, to be honest, particularly if it's half the size of the sun, if those correct. So there is a lot to ponder here, but for sure, whatever.
There's so much controversy about the
I
size
know.
of it.
I know, but these are some of the reports out there. We can't say whether they're true or not, but these are all things worth bearing in mind, because if you take those to be true and then you put them in the context of Mars, which is tiny in comparison, it should light up our sky. So these may be.
Is it going to reveal the true size of our sun
Right.
and our moon and where the constellations truly
Right.
are?
And as many of you who've been following us for a while will know, we sort of humorously, but also semi-seriously, have been questioning the nature of the sun and the moon in our universe, as we've been questioning the nature of the Western astrology that uses these things. So everything is kind of up for grabs. And I feel like Atlas 3i is bringing that opportunity for a new reset of ourselves, of our reality, maybe even of Mother Earth in a more ascended version, and the removal of those lower things that don't serve us anymore, if that's what we want to let go of. And I would hope that we all do.
And here the importance of following the real constellational astrology with the true sky, because otherwise they're going to tell you where the comet is and it's not going to match the true sky. So you need to follow one of those websites like Stellarium or other ones in the sky. There are many that you can see exactly where the comet is to follow it. So apparently it looks like this. I don't know if it's true or not. And the other thing is that apparently it came through the Eagle Nebula, which is here part of the Serpents. Look at the Serpents here in the galactic center. So funny enough, this Eagle Nebula, it's an open cluster, which is also known as Star Queen Nebula. So how beautiful that we're getting an interstellar object coming from the Serpent constellation through the middle of the galactic center. Then it is journeyed very close to the ecliptic. It already went past Scorpius. It's now around Libra. When is this date? I don't remember where I have it. But it's around here in Libra, and then it's going to meet very close to Mars, the Sun, and then continue the
Right,
journey.
and in fact, this nicely illustrates what we were just talking about because in those latter days of October, according to the Western zodiac system, the sun should be in Scorpius, and it's not. It's a long way away. It's actually in Virgo and moving increasingly into Virgo. So this is where we have to treat all information with a little bit of a pinch of salt until we've investigated it further and come to our own truth that we feel comfortable with.
So another synchronicity is the fact that Kin 205, which is the 15th of October, it's a serpent day, the spectral serpent. I would say that the fact that this is coming connected to serpents, the constellation, we can see it here on the center of the galaxy, is a very clear message with the amount of work we've been doing with integrating these serpents constellation into our 13 sign constellational astrology, doing the inner work of the integration of the lower nodes of the masculine and feminine lines of the serpent, which is the lower nodes of what we are if they are not in harmony. But when they are integrated and healed, they can be about healing and knowledge and wisdom and amazing things. So it's part of our evolution. The process of the serpent is part of our evolutionary process as well. So this object entered our solar system close to the Serpent's area where I showed before. And right after the eclipse of the 23rd of September, around between the 21st and 23rd, is going to be in Virgo. And Virgo, as I was saying, is the mother, is the womb, is the place of conception. So is this the sign that we are going to be rebirthed into the new cosmic humans that we want to be?
And as part of this switch in the astrology, I mean, it's given me, and I'm sure many of you have done the same thing or engaging in the process, lots of moments of reflection. Because if you've been living your life according to the astrology that you'd been given or that you had accepted, and then realize that all of the things that you were putting through the filter that happened in your life down to that particular astrology, it being particularly in Scorpio, and it's suddenly not at least in my case, it's forced me to question, well, hold on a second, how much of that system gave me anything that was real and how much of it was I actually creating based on the projection of this distortion in my own nature? And I'm concluding that actually a lot of what I thought was scorpionic energy, because I have a stellium there, was actually coming from Virgo. And it's really given me a little bit of a mental shift to accept that, but also to go, oh my gosh, actually, this does also fit. But it's really the point being is it's given me the impetus to look at everything that I thought I believed about myself and say, well, maybe that wasn't quite the full truth. It was a distortion by 24 degrees, apparently. But I believed it so much that I made it true. And how many of us do this with many things? So I think this is an important point. We don't have to completely rip up who we think we are, but maybe this opportunity to reset ourselves and put on a new outfit, our cosmic human outfit, is one that we've all been waiting for. Maybe this is the invitation that is part of that.
I agree. So here on this slide, I've also kind of summarized the key days, the conjunction with Mars around these dates, 2nd to the 4th, closer to the Sun around the 20th to the 21st, and especially that is going to be exactly a conjunct Spica in Virgo. So I find that fascinating because Spica, it's according to Stellar Nations, is the star for the angels, is the process of redemption, and redemption is the process that we are into in this final phase of the evolutionary process. So in November, it's conjunct Venus. Also Spica is going to be part of that conjunction. Then we won't see it around this period of time of October, November, but then it's visible again on the 3rd through the 7th of December. It comes back and it's going to be in the constellation of Leo, and then it gets really close to Earth at around December 16th through the 18th. So this is when we have just completed the Solkin and we start a whole new cycle. I think the synchronicities around these are absolutely amazing.
I mean, perhaps this isn't the scope for this video, but there has been quite a bit of speculation about Mars in general and people's desire to fly there, create breakaway civilizations and everything else. But I think what is more intriguing is that as 3i Atlas gets into the vicinity of Mars, 3i Atlas disappears from view, and we don't really supposedly know what's going to happen during that period. So I find that also a little curious side note, whether it's nefarious or positive, we don't know, or maybe it's just doing its thing. But considering the amount of focus that there's been on Mars recently and the fact that this passes so close to it during this period, I think is worthy of taking note of.
Absolutely. So I think that what we're talking about now is that moment of cosmic fertilization, of an activation of that moment where it's going to happen in Virgo, and it's like, okay, this is the fertilization, and what is going to be born out of this is the whole new range of possibilities for the Earth and even for the solar system, because it's going to go to so many planets and key planets as well that we're very much affected by what happens in Venus, what happens in Mars, what happens even with Jupiter being the biggest planet.
So I would suggest that if there are any fear narratives being put out there about this being alien invasion or something of that nature, because they're already edging towards that in the narratives, anything that has fear put into it, I would suggest is being projected deliberately by people with different agendas to perhaps the ones that we have. Discernment is always the key here. Run whatever your thoughts or feelings are through your body medicine, or if you listen to somebody else and it resonates with you, run it through the body medicine. Does it still resonate, or do you get a jar? This is how we are going to discern these energies. But I would like to suggest that rather than listen to any projections of fear about what this may or may not do to planet Earth, if we read this moment here, a cosmic fertilization moment, the activation, then whatever is going to cause that is a necessary step in our evolution, which we should not be afraid of. Maybe even if it includes a radical reappraisal, recalibration of ourselves from a carbon-based life form to a silica-based life form. So as a famous song once said, don't fear the reaper. Maybe this is an opportunity for a rebirth into something much more galactic and cosmic.
For sure.
I like that idea.
And look at what Atlas actually means: asteroid terrestrial impact last alert system. That is what the
Asteroid
acronym is.
terrestrial impact last alert system.
But don't fear, it
Right.
could be something much bigger and better. So, and also we have all of the mythology that comes out of stellar nations with Atlas
Yeah.
and Solana being our sun.
Mm.
And maybe it is Atlas sending a message to our sun saying, okay, son, I think it's time. You've done your process. And remember that the Mayans used to call every evolutionary stage a sun. A new
That's
sun,
true, right?
second sun, the fourth sun. Some cultures think that we're in the fifth sun, some that we are in the sixth sun or entering the sixth sun. Either way, it absolutely feels like this is marking the beginning of a whole new era for all of us.
Right, so if any of you have watched the ongoing series of the Cosmic History Codes, myself and Leslie, she talks a lot about the sun getting bored of his role of Atlas and deciding to rebel and creating his own universe, which is the one that we live in, but also understanding the perils of all of that. And this is the story now coming to its culmination. We tracked that story out last year with the sun, with all of the Cazinis that it was making as it went to visit all of the family members to resolve all of those issues. And then after all of that had happened last year, then this comes into the narration, which I think is beautiful. It's to me, it seems symbolic of everything getting realigned and aligned back to the galactic center and the universal way of doing things.
So this is the final wrap up, the final tips and takeaways from all of this. So the Soul Kin ends with Kin 260, and that is a gap day. That day is going to be a cosmic sun. And it's also when we get to see Atlas again. and then it gets really close to us. So to me, this is absolutely the marker, whether it is Quetzalcoatl, whether it's Kukulkan, or just a visitor sending us some new DNA, whatever it is absolutely symbolic. And when we talk about the cosmic sun or 13 Ahau, the qualities are illumination, universal fire, energy, information, divine light, enlightenment, cosmic consciousness, gold energy, sovereignty, solar mind, solar mastery, wisdom, knowledge, bliss. And 13 is the tone of transcendence, the tone of presence. How symbolic is it to end this Solkin with all of this going on? It's absolutely amazing. And so I am expecting many truths to be illuminated and a brighter path where energy is seeking its optimal expression through creative cycles. I absolutely feel this is the whole new cycle for all of us. And the fact that the Serpent's constellation is also part of all of this, the spectral serpent on Kin 245 as the moment when this happens is all about the work that we've done with healing the lower nodes of the serpent, with integrating the masculine and feminine, with reaching higher levels of consciousness and integration within each one of us.
Right, and also within the context of the stellar nations, the male and female serpent nations also bring the highest nodes of sacred geometry and mathematics through the Melchizedek line, but also through the female line of the healers. It brings all of the ability to heal in multiple different ways. To work with plants, also to work with the alchemical process of Tantra. These are the highest qualities of the male serpent and the female serpent, which we now feel have been greatly restored over the last year and a half. And of course, if you follow the whole line about the genetics being switched off and on and on and off, with our Anunnaki ancestors, maybe this is coming from the Serpent's constellation as a way of finally saying that journey of being switched off and disconnected is now coming to an end, and you're going to be reconnected to the rest of the universe and to your cosmic human self, which I think would be an absolutely lovely idea at this time, because it feels like it's something that we could probably all do with, because we are sort of in a transition phase, and there's a sort of a weird sense of being in that liminal space between what we were before and not quite stepping into what we're becoming. And we're in that space right now. And I think that everything that you presented here, Bella, are giving us the coordinates of how, why, and when this is all going to happen, so that we can be ready to invite it in and receive it if that's what feels appropriate to you.
So thank you everybody for staying up to this point. This is the summary of everything, but you see how I needed to give context with everything that I had to explain about the golden ratio, the cycles, and blah, 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 all of those things. If you find any other synchronicities, please post them here in the comments. If you have anything else to add to this, please do, because I think the most of us that pay attention and that bring all of this into the mix, the more cohesion, the more coherence, the more that we're going to be putting into the quantum field of consciousness, which goes and ripples around the planet. So this is the final part, the golden convergence of timelines, where we have 13 years since 2012, which is the end of the long count calendar of 5,125 years, or even 26,000 years, as we saw, if we want to count the bigger cycle. 38 years since August 1987 with the harmonic convergence and everything that happened there. 80 years since that nuclear disaster in Japan, and how we're trying to rewrite, recalibrate the karma created with that process in 1945. 443 years since 1582, when the Gregorian calendar was created in October, and they messed it all up and removed so many days and got us into a big mess, actually, from that point onwards. And then 3i Atlas, its proximity, we know that it entered our solar system in July, which is when we were finishing the 13 moon calendar and starting the new one. Also when Sirius aligns with our sun when it rises. Now in October 29 is when it's going to get really close to the sun. December 18, really close to the earth. And it's also around the time that we finish the Solkin. And it's during the moon of radiance when we can radiate from our hearts. So keep those dates in mind. Plan something, something special, something meaningful for October 14 and 15 when it's the time of convergence. And this is going to happen during the electric moon of service as well. So this is the service that we do for the planet and for evolution on Kin 204 and Kin 205. And this is pretty much a presentation. It felt very urgent. I hope that you enjoyed it. And the final one is, may peace, harmony, and beauty prevail on earth. That's the message.
Wow, true that. So let's just take this down. So thank you very much, Bella, for pulling all of that information together. I know it's been quite an intensive period as all of those threads were organizing themselves in your awareness so that you can make this presentation, which for me has definitely clarified quite a few things, also my own validations. And so I hope it's done something similar for all of you watching. Hopefully you feel better informed about the period that we're entering into. And yes, thank you very much for that, Bella. It was very informative and I feel very important considering what you've shared.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it kept me awake last night. I couldn't sleep. It felt like there is an urgency for this message to go out. So if you feel that the information is valuable, do share with people that you feel will benefit from this, or people that you want to gather with and do something and bring the awareness of the moment we are in.
Right, so if you've managed to get to the end of the video, well done. Hopefully you've received all of the information that Bella shared, but please, as we say, do place a comment on your experiences working with the calendar or any thoughts you have on what we've shared. We do really appreciate the feedback because it gives us an idea of how the information's been received. And sometimes some of the comments also give us some trigger points to go away and think about things in a positive way. So please do hit the like button and comment, and certainly thank Bella for the amount of time she's put into this because it's been quite a piece of research. So thank you very much, maybe. Thank you all for listening. We will, of course, be back soon enough with another edition of the Quantum Compass. The most recent edition is just out for this new red magnetic Earth wave spell, of which we're recording on day 2. It all feels very important. There's a lot of layering of energies at the moment, very connected to the Earth, actually very connected to planting seeds, to the harvest time, and many things really that speak of Virgo, which I find super interesting in the context of what we've just shared here. So these are all, as always, invitations to each and every one of you to deep dive into any aspect of this presentation or anything else that we share that seems important and relevant for you. And if you turn up something interesting, please always share it with us. We're always delighted to hear. So that's it, I think, for today, right?
Thank you for being here in Lakesh, and we'll see you in the next show.
In Lakesh, I am another you. Bye for now.